Hi everyone, Shelley Ward here, President of the PEI Union of Public Sector Employees. And I'm very excited about our 50th annual convention celebration, and I'm so looking forward to sharing with you the history of our great union. The goal of the video is to mark the important milestones of our history. At our 50th annual convention, we are celebrating and generating awareness about our accomplishments from the past so we can grow in solidarity into the future. I know that you will be astonished to hear where, how, and why we started this movement on PEI. And our hope is that the video will demonstrate how our union has helped the labor movement and also the quality of life of all islanders. So sit back, indulge in your popcorn and pop, and enjoy the show.
We will all stand together and sing a union song. We will all stand together and know that we belong to the strength of the future in a common working bond. Stand together and sing a union song.
The story of today's PEI Union of Public Sector Employees begins in 1945 as the PEI Public Servants Association. The first meeting was held on February 8th with H.R. Carruthers acting as the president. In late May of that year, he and three other members, L.W. Shaw, J.W. Curry, and P.A. Murnahan, met and drafted a constitution for the association. On June 4th, the first constitution of the PEI PSA was formally adopted. Annual membership dues were set at 50 cents. 1946 saw the first annual general meeting of the association, with the meeting being held in the Legislative Assembly chamber. At that time, there were 116 members. L.W. Shaw was elected president, and it was agreed upon that the association would hold 4 general meetings a year and a general annual meeting each January. The group focused mainly on providing social activities for the members to promote camaraderie. They arranged for dances, magic shows, corn boils, and wiener roasts, and they also formed a very successful bowling league, which, although it is no longer organized by the union, is still in operation today. People who worked for the provincial government were well respected in their communities, and there was a certain prestige attached to a government position. Later that year, the association decided to present what it felt was a reasonable schedule of proposed salaries to the Executive Council for consideration. And in a show of good faith, the employer adopted the schedule in November of the same year. By the second annual convention in January 1947, the association boasted 200 members. 105 were in attendance at the meeting where they elected the third president, J.F. Connolly. At one of the regular meetings later that year, the annual dues were raised to $1, and a proposal was made to approach government for a cost of living bonus. The association suggested $225 for married employees and $125 for single employees. The government supported the concept, but agreed to pay only $125 for married employees and $75 for single employees. It seems the more things change, the more they stay the same. The closing years of the 1940s saw 2 new presidents of the association, W. E. Massey for 1948 and P.A. Murnahan in 1949. The 1950s saw a succession of association presidents: J.F. Connolly, T.A. White, Tony Gallant, Dr. George C. Fisher, J.B. Shelfoun, and John Gilmore. During the decade, the association made important advances. Among these were accumulated sick leave for employees, membership in the Canadian Council of Provincial Employees Association, group insurance, superannuation, and a 5-day work week. A joint committee between the association and the government was struck to study and report on the classification of salaries for all government departments. The invitation of the PSA to participate in this study was considered by the members to be a sign of good relations between the parties, and provided the PSA executive with the confidence to speak up for the members on other employment-related issues. In 1953, the association achieved an agreement with government for the establishment of an annual Christmas bonus for government employees. In the request from the executive of the PSA, President Dr. George C. Fisher pointed out, "We cannot emphasize the point too strongly that a satisfied employee is a good employee." As a result of their request, all government employees received an annual Christmas bonus of $10. During the 1960s, the association had 6 presidents: Philip W. Barlow, J. Vincent McIntyre, Dr. James I. Higgins, Joseph E. Dunning, Dugald McNutt, and Floyd Buell. In May 1961, the Attorney General authorized PSA to incorporate, and a new constitution and bylaws were developed and accepted. That same month also introduced the first issue of the association newsletter, aptly named the Association News. 1962 was an important year for the association. Under the leadership of President McIntyre, a joint council was established to deal with employee grievances. A new Civil Service Act was put in place, designed to give a greater measure of job security. At the time, it was considered to be one of the best in the country. The employer also agreed to implement a new pay schedule for all government employees, going with 26 pay periods per year, with every second Thursday being payday. During the annual meeting in 1962, President McIntyre succinctly stated the position of the association. "In our democratic society, we as workers have a right to organize. We have a right to present our employment problems to our employers, and our employer has a definite responsibility to their employees. When management realizes these responsibilities and recognizes the rights of the worker to present his arguments in favor of improvements without fear, then you will find the nation's business, both government and private, will operate much more smoothly and efficiently to the profit of both. We, the members of this association, are not only working for government, but also working with government in the promotion of our welfare and the welfare of the people." 1965 saw the establishment of a 40-hour work week for health care staff, improvements to the retirement insurance coverage, and mandatory membership for full-time employees in the group insurance plan. Although all of these achievements were welcomed by the association and its members, they were beginning to realize that although the employer was willing to listen to their suggestions and often implement them to a degree, the results were usually far from what they'd been hoping for. There was much discussion across the country about collective bargaining, and it was a topic which was becoming discussed quite often among the PSA members. The year also saw Mr. E.J. Prott being hired as Executive Secretary, the first paid staff member of the association. In 1967, the association purchased a typewriter and a Gestetner machine, allowing the regular publication of the association news. The decade ended with ongoing discussions with government over their plan to reduce the number of job classifications from 360 to 40. The minimum wage of members increased from $1,800 to $2,650, a 40% increase, but still below the accepted poverty line. A PSA crest, designed by M.J. Cudmore, was adopted, and it was also agreed to pay an annual honorarium to the president of $250. The PSA was ushered into the 1970s under the leadership of President Floyd Buell, who held the post until 1977. President Buell was instrumental in changing the association's focus during this period to that of an organization whose purpose was to advocate for the members it represented and to ensure that it was respected by the employer. While there was still a desire to be on good terms with the employer, the time had come to have a real voice in the decisions which affected the membership. During President Buell's 10-year run as president, the association underwent many changes. The name was changed from Civil Servants to Civil Service, and along with the name change came a change in the relationship between the association and the employer. Although there was still a desire to have a harmonious relationship with the employer, the association had come to fully realize that they needed to establish a more level playing field in order for it to be able to negotiate collectively on behalf of the membership in the future. 1973 and 74 were years of firsts for the PSA, the first official employer-employee consultations, the first collective agreement with government, and the first ratification vote by members on wages and working conditions. During this time, President Buell established the association's first affiliation with the House of Labour by becoming a member of the Canadian Labour Congress. He was also instrumental in developing the first joint training program with government on employer-employee relations. In 1977, the association office moved to its present location, elected Blair James as president, and boasted a membership of 3,340. Holland College members joined UPSE. The association's second collective agreement included a wage increase in the second year that exceeded the federal government's anti-inflation legislation and saw the association formally challenge the federal government for an exception, which they were successful in obtaining.